The State Ombudsman, Bruce Barbour, has issued an alarming warning about the increasing risk of child deaths from neglect or abuse. In a special report commissioned under his own motion powers, the Ombudsman has found that in spite of all the talk of reform of the child protection system, fewer children identified at significant risk of harm were actually being checked by DOCS, the Department of Community Services. It's the strongest and most confronting language the usually mild-mannered Ombudsman has used in years, and comes at a time when yet another child known to DOCS has died in suspicious circumstances.
Significant harm is at the highest end. We're talking about children who are physically or sexually abused. We're talking about children who are in significantly bad domestic violence situations in their homes, children who are not being provided with appropriate education, being psychologically abused.
The Ombudsman's special report to Parliament, Keep Them Safe, ? Has thrown a political and policy hand grenade into what was meant to be the steadily improving performance of child protection in this state. Instead, Mr Barbour and his analysts have found that since DOCS's definitional focus was changed to identify those children at significant risk, thereby prompting direct intervention to preempt harm to them through face-to-face monitoring by caseworkers, files were being closed without any assessment, and face-to-face contact had dropped from 18,140 children in 06-07 to 12,743 in calendar 2010.
We're talking about the most significant cases, and they are the ones now that must be reported to community services. They're the only ones that need to be reported to community services. So our expectation is that community services should be seeing more of those children. What we also say is because those cases are so significant, it's essential to actually observe what is happening. You need to have face-to-face contact. You can't close these files without any assessment. It's unacceptable.
In 2008, the Yemma government asked Justice James Wood to inquire into failures in this state's child protection system. It followed some distressing child deaths. One was the death of 7-year-old Shelley Ward, allegedly from starvation, at her Hawk's Nest home. It produced a flood of complaints from DOCS workers about the agency's performance. Shelley Ward was known to DOCS, but had only recently moved with her family to Hawk's Nest from Sydney. There was also the death of 2-year-old Dean Shillingsworth. The boy's body, stuffed in a suitcase, was found floating in a duck pond. Justice Wood's recommendations produced 100 strategies to make child protection a whole-of-community, all-government agencies' responsibility, now to involve the non-government welfare sector as well. The reforms were labelled Keep Them Safe. Definitions were changed to free DOCS caseworker loads to children at risk of significant harm.
We need to, as a community, discuss the issues. That's the purpose of this report. I think, secondly, we need to better target families who are in need. The statistics demonstrate that about 10,000 families are the cause for almost half of all the reports that community services get. Let's target those families better to make sure we've got a better response.
After the change of government in March, Prue Goward was sworn in as the new Minister for Family and Community Services. Budget papers seem to indicate, well, they do indicate that there has been an increase in funding and an increase in the establishment or the staff establishment of caseworkers meant to be looking at children at significant risk. Can you explain now in your new position as the Minister how the number of children being seen or monitored has in fact gone down, which we were meant to get the opposite effect?
That's right. I mean, isn't it ironic that you have inquiry after inquiry, you have billions of additional dollars spent on it, more caseworker positions, and you end up going backwards? That tells you two things. As the Ombudsman observed, it's not just about the money. It's about the will for reform and the sort of reforms that you do. So you have to do simple, practical things like the trial that we're doing where actually you require caseworkers to go out and see children. At the end of the day, what we all need is for more caseworkers to see more children more often.
There's been reports of an inadequate IT system. Now, with the digital revolution, a database available even in a laptop form immediately to caseworkers out in the field should be absolutely fundamental. You're telling us that's not there now?
No, you'd have to say the data collection and the IT of this department is woeful. That was acknowledged by Wood, that was his first recommendation, and we are still way behind. There are some new tools coming through that I think will enable caseworkers to get away from the computer and back to working with children. But it is extraordinary that there were millions and millions of dollars spent under Labor on IT reform that resulted in a worse, not an improved, data collection system.
Minister, the most difficult and distressing question is, and I certainly put it to the Ombudsman, was that as a consequence of this failure, this apparent failure from the statistical analysis that he has given us, that more children at risk will die. You get reports on child deaths. Is that happening?
All we know is the number of child deaths is about the same. And when you think that there are more children, in a sense, in parlous circumstances than, say, 20 or 30 years ago because of changing social circumstances, then maybe the rate of child deaths, and it's a small number, is not what we should be so concerned with. But obviously you would not want that number or that ratio to rise any further. You want to see it get down. No child's death is excusable or forgivable, and every child's death is an opportunity for us to look at the way we do business and work out how we can do it better next time.
Minister Goward now confronts the distressing reality of her responsibilities. Last week there was another child death. Tanilla Warwick Deeves, too, from a family known to docs on the Central Coast. Tanilla died in what investigating police now call suspicious circumstances.
That's a very sad case, and it's a case in which the department was involved. We were working with that family. We were actually providing intensive case management for that family. What I have asked the department for is a complete review of when we started to work with that family and why this could have happened, given that we had ongoing contact with that family. And again, no death is forgivable, but every death is an opportunity to learn and to do it better next time.
The daunting demands of child protection have burnt out many politicians and public administrators over the decades. There's speculation Prue Goward's department will not fare well in next Tuesday's state budget.
I am probably the first MP in 20 years who's asked for this job. I've wanted this job. I feel great confidence in the sector, in the non-government sector, and in the good heart of the caseworkers and the leadership of my department. And I know that together, if we do it properly and as a team, we can achieve things that have not been achieved. New South Wales public sector has run as a hierarchical silo. We've got the money, you'll do as you're told. That is clearly not the way of the future. The whole world's worked that out except New South Wales, and my job is to make sure that we maximise the effort, not of the Department of Community Services and its several thousand staff, but the capacity of the whole sector, the non-government sector, the schools, health, teachers, police, all to keep our children safe. And that's the difference. This has been a Stalinist state. You know, this has been silos. This has been a domination, which has all been led by we've got the money. We might have the money, but they've got the skills and we need to work with them. And I believe that will make the difference.